Into the Spiderverse was amazing. Across the Spiderverse was spectacular. By all logical argumentation, Beyond the Spiderverse is looking to be superior? Ultimate? We don't really have another adjective that's just become synonymous with this character, do we? There's a lot about the Spider-Verse movies that could be considered art. I'm hardly the first to propose that these films go just a bit beyond being another factory-produced superhero flick. The music, the visuals, the depth to the storytelling. I mean, what is there to say that hasn't already been said? They're real good. But something I bet your mind didn't immediately jump to when I brought up all the artistic qualities of Spider-Verse were the trailers. Movie trailers as a medium I find so fascinating, and probably more than I should. They have a very particular and very difficult job, needing to not only make you aware of the film they want you to go see, make that film look really good, utilise as much footage as possible to ensure you get a correct understanding of the film, all while trying not to spoil the viewing experience. Not too dissimilar from a movie poster, both are trying to juggle looking good on their own terms, while also accurately representing something else. However, posters are an entirely separate entity, often using material created exclusively for them. For example, nowhere in Guardians 3 are the main characters all stood around on an alien desert planet, posing dynamically for the camera. These are all individual pictures taken of the actors, stitched together and framed in an environment that creates the general feeling of the film, rather than featuring anything directly from it. Most posters do this, even the animated ones. It's equivalent to back when artists would draw box art for the Sega Genesis games. You will never find this hideously Americanized rendition of Sonic the Hedgehog anywhere inside of Sonic 1. It's just a drawing made to represent the product. That's ultimately what film posters are all about, creating a brand new image that does work on its own, but that marries with a movie to a T. Now they're absolutely an art form in and of themselves. We've all seen those one or two posters in recent years that just stick with you, often coming down to simplicity, I find. A kind of like a meme, condensing your ideas down into one memorable phrase, or image in this case, which is going to cause that idea to spread far quicker and easier, but I'm getting off track at this point. What fascinates me about trailers is that it's this exact same concept, but narrowed down way further. Trailer artists don't even get the luxury of freshly made material to craft a unique image. They're working exclusively with footage directly from the film. They can't create in the traditional sense. No trailer can entirely stand on its own as a memorable piece of art like a poster can. They rely on the existing movie, and I really feel for the artists. It's such a delicate balancing act. Nowadays, even the slightest slip-up in the footage used can get people guessing major chunks of your story. The tiniest amount of missing context can create a storm of discourse over absolutely nothing. And even the smallest tweaks or changes can lead people feeling wholly misled. But then, at the exact same time, studios are trying to make their trailers more deceptive and sneaky to directly combat this, all while still trying to ensure that they accurately represent the final product. It's a minefield, man. I can't say I envy the guys making any of this. Especially when you consider the deadlines these people must be under. The focus has been on actors and writers and VFX teams in recent years, but I'm telling you, There's some diabolical stories from the trailer industry that are just waiting to gain traction. Both of these mediums being such a required element of every single movie on the planet too, it often leads to a lot of trend chasing. Trailers and posters for vastly different products often tend to blur together. Fashionable concepts come and go. I mean, we've all seen the action movie trailer. Some slow build-up with a few generic lines of dialogue, some snappy text fading onto screen, about 1 trillion bois thrown into the sound mixing. There's a parody of one with several million views, and it's great. So then, despite all of these hindrances, when a trailer comes around that really manages to make a thing out of the existing film, when you get a genuine piece of art, I think that deserves to be recognised. And, of course, if there were any movies in the last few years that would manage to get these work of art trailers, it would be Spiderverse. Now, not all of Spiderverse's trailers are equal. There are some that are just a pretty standard industry trailer, solely designed to sell you the movie. They're pretty good, on the higher end of that spectrum, but that more comes down to the excellent song choices and well done editing. They don't really try to go beyond the phrase, "Oh, that looked cool, I am going to see that movie now." However, there's 2 trailers from the Spiderverse marketing campaigns that do manage to go that extra mile. One of which being, pretty interestingly, the very first glimpse of Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse that the public ever received. Now this is where I'd love to play you these trailers for context, to give you the most holistic version of this video that I can possibly create. But unfortunately, the YouTube algorithm has been programmed in such a way that me showcasing trailers to movies that have now finished their box office runs, so these trailers grant companies zero financial gain anymore, will somehow still get me copyright claimed. That sounds fair. So instead, I'm just gonna leave links to both of these in the description and put their URLs on screen. I'd recommend watching them both first before continuing. They're only like 2 minutes each, but I'm gonna be diving into them anyway, so hopefully you'll be able to catch up regardless. So a hearty fuck you to YouTube, and let's continue. The official teaser trailer for Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse has stuck with me ever since I first saw it in December of 2017. It has never left my mind. And part of that is nostalgia. This was the very first glimpse we ever got of what would turn out to be an incredible movie, and side note, anyone who watched this and was still surprised that the final film turned out so good, shame on you. Have a little faith for once, man. But there really is something almost magical about it. The way it lingers on certain shots, the information it leaves out, the overall feel that it creates. It has such a style that's all its own. It's definitely a teaser trailer, featuring only about 3 scenes from the final film, all of which are either tweaked, unfinished, or with such little animation that it's honestly reminiscent of a PS1 cutscene. But it's what it does with so little that makes it so great. Spider-Verse's teaser trailer almost feels like it's selling you an entirely different movie. A quieter, slower, more traditionally art house piece, taking you on a journey through the mundane in-betweens in the life of being Spider-Man. Like, in the final film, Miles waiting to get on the train is just a footnote in the build-up to the leap of faith. But in this trailer, that shot is the very first notable one we see. And though it's only on screen for a second or two more than the finished product, it feels like we linger on this beat for so much longer. Taking the sometimes endless feeling of waiting in these very liminal spaces, and asking what that must feel like for Spider-Man, in a beautifully stylish way. Like, really look at this, man. Something about a hooded Spidey just standing there, silently confident, in a gritty, dirty subway station, at the dead of night, with his clothes swaying in the breeze as the train crashes past. It evokes such feeling, in a way I'm honestly struggling to describe. I already preferred Miles' hooded look to either of his plain suits, it just gives him a way more memorable appearance. But here it really works for the vibe this trailer is creating. Closed off and all alone, I could almost see this being a Spider-Man who's given up on the human side of his identity, now spending every waking moment in that mask, roaming the empty streets in the earliest hours of the morning, hunting down any evildoers. Obviously, that's not who Miles is in these films. It's kind of comically off the mark, in fact. But it speaks to just how different a vibe this teaser trailer gives off. The choice to show only footage set at nighttime is honestly probably a completely nothing decision, just working with whatever footage they had available, but man, it works here. This palpably adds to the atmosphere. And of course, a decent chunk of that atmosphere can be credited to the music. Using Vince Staples' Home, this very somber piece with a strong undercurrent of determination, really aids what they were accidentally creating. It's kind of amazing, really. This trailer manages to make Spiderverse feel infinitely larger than it ended up being, whilst also feeling so much smaller and more personal. Something I find absolutely fascinating is that we see the What's Up Danger scene, we see the big moment of the film, and yet it doesn't feel nearly as impactful. I think that's due to all of the missing context. In the movie, it's made clear that Miles isn't even sure if he can successfully pull this move off. It becomes apparent that he's risking a gruesome death to awaken his inner Spider-Man. So when he successfully connects that webbing and swings away, timed with the song coming in full force, the sheer feeling of triumph you elicit from the audience, well, it's the scene everyone always talks about, so it obviously worked. But the trailer so far has presented us with a Spider-Man that seems pretty established, with a lot of self-confidence. So when he pulls off this elaborate stunt, it's just like, hey Spider-Man, why'd you jump from that building? I like that we don't see Miles' face until the very end too. Adds to that unique feeling I've been getting at. It lets you meet Spider-Man long before you meet Miles Morales. Also, this logo at the end here is just way better than the one they used in all the other promotional material. Who at Sony made that decision? I just want to talk. And I think that's where I'm gonna leave this one. I mean, I've basically ran out of trailer footage to talk about already. It's really quite short. Ironically enough, considering the film's subject matter, Into the Spider-Verse's teaser trailer ends up feeling like a peek into another universe. A world where we got a very different movie. Would that movie have turned out any good? Oh, who can say, but well, I certainly like the idea. Some kind of hybrid of the concepts of Batman in the world of Spider-Man. That sounds pretty rad to me. And I am not the only one to feel like this. Look at any popular post featuring this trailer. You'll find tons of comments about the very unique atmosphere found in these 2 minutes. Just how different it feels from the finished product. It's very interesting and maybe something worth exploring down the line. Everyone seems to like the alternate world that this trailer implies, And I mean, if even multiverse-centric animated Spider-Man movies are able to be a mainstream success, then surely there's room for something a little more artsy, right? Well, anyway, that's the official teaser trailer for Into the Spider-Verse. I kinda love it, as I'm sure I've demonstrated by now. I don't know if I'd necessarily call it a smashing success as an actual trailer, seeing as I kinda feel like I was being sold the Batman Part 2 instead of a Spider-Man outing, but hey, I still liked what I saw, so. Our next trailer, it doesn't go in that direction. We're definitely getting a Spiderverse film advertised this time. However, it still goes above and beyond, utilising both fresh and existing material to create a sense of emotion unlike anything I've ever seen.
I can hear you being
Across the Spider-Verse's first proper trailer is really fucking emotional, man. Starting us in that quiet moment on the roof between Rio and Miles, where she accepts, encourages, and educates her growing boy on how to live his best life. The trailer takes that one small part of a gigantic movie and centres the entire 2 minutes around it. Footage is cut to her words, both old and new. The heart and sincerity of that single tiny moment is magnified to a film scale, and spans across the entirety of the Spider-Verse saga up to that point. We see exclusively into footage when Rio's recounting her past with Miles, and we transition more and more into stuff from across, as she hammers home what his future could be. All very solid choices too. Stan Lee on the taking care of this little boy, both movies Gwen when anything about love is mentioned, Miguel and the Spider Society on the topic of don't let anyone tell you that you don't belong. All pretty obvious choices, but effective nonetheless. And, like, yeah, this isn't some groundbreaking discovery on the editor's parts or anything. Obviously, this dialogue was literally written to echo Miles' journey, but seeing it all displayed right in front of you, in this just tapestry of both movies, it hits home and has a resonant quality all its own that's very distinct from just hearing the dialogue and then connecting the dots later on in your head. Of course, a very big part of that resonance can be credited to the music. This uses a slightly edited version of the track Shoulder Touch from the first movie's OST, if I'm not mistaken, and yeah, obviously that's gonna hit you right in the heart. Especially when they time the very first of those bois to the big what's up danger moment. It's very simple emotional manipulation, but hey, it works. You somehow managed to capture all of my feelings from that initial scene, and contained them into just a second or two of trailer time. That's undeniably impressive.
That he feels like he belongs wherever he wants to be. He wants to go out into the world and do great big things.
Oh my god, I love these movies, I love this franchise, why does it have to end at Beyond? Make more of them, please! Where I think this goes a level above the typical, here's a bunch of past stuff to stir your emotions about the new thing idea in play, is the fact that the emotion doesn't stop once we fully transition into footage from across. The music keeps swelling, Rio's words get more passionate, the scale just builds and builds. The emotion keeps coming and it refuses to hit the brakes. It creates the feeling of a proper narrative, a journey, not simply utilizing flashbacks to get you invested, only to then morph into a more confident and action-packed tone once we start promoting the new product. All the pain, struggles, and triumphs of Miles' story beforehand, this trailer makes a statement. It says that all of that is continuing right on into this one, and honestly, I think that's a pretty perfect way to market across the Spider-Verse. In spirit, at least. Especially since, after all that building and building, everything winds down to let the moment between Miles and Rio naturally reach its end, and then bam, hard cut to a silent black. Fucking artistry. The trailer then climaxes in the form of a very fast montage of stuff from across, with a pretty menacing undertone. But I do think this is somewhat of a weak ending, mostly since the montage doesn't hone in on Miles. Hell, it's more focused on Gwen and Miguel. Now that reflects the movie, but certainly not this trailer. It just kinda devolves into another standard ad for Across the Spiderverse, which, while still really good and hype building, it doesn't quite pay off the emotional journey the first 2 minutes of the trailer sent you on. But, oh well, I mean, I can't complain. I still got that excellent first 3/4 of the trailer. Oh yeah, and speaking of, they sprinkle in a fair few of those echoey thuds throughout. You know the kind. The ones trailers use to make any and every little motion seem like the most important thing on the planet. It's a pretty cheap way to heighten your trailer, but when used right, well, it obviously works. So that is trailer 1 of Across the Spiderverse, and yeah, it's pretty damn good. Might not offer a glimpse into an entirely different movie, but man, it sure makes me remember why I love the movie we did end up getting. Such emotion coming out of a big budget superhero movie advertisement was a surprise, to be sure. A better welcome one. And is that mostly down to the fact that they didn't want to commit to much footage? Because behind the scenes conditions for this movie had fully completed segments being scrapped and reanimated left and right? Probably, unfortunately. No trend-chasing studio executive is ever going to ask for something heartfelt out of choice, and please do better for Beyond, Sony. You have such an amazing team of artists on your workforce. Please treat them fairly and give them the time and payment they deserve. It was genuinely heartbreaking seeing such shit conditions plaguing a movie that seemed so above those things. Anyway, yeah, that is likely the reason this trailer exists the way it does, and honestly, well done to the people who put this thing together. You made an absolute mountain out of a molehill here, but like, in a good way, so well done. And so, as we near the end of this video, all I have to say is, please do it again for Beyond. Please make the conscious decision to evoke emotion for that movie's marketing. Like, this is just part 2 in the trilogy, and the way this trailer's put together genuinely makes it feel like we've already hit the final stretch, so I cannot fucking imagine the feelings you could draw out of me when we reach the actual heartfelt finale. If you intentionally decide to go down that route, then man, I am scared of what you might produce. Also, a non sequitur, but I simply have to take a moment to shout out amazing shots. If this video hasn't already convinced you of the power of editing, then please check their Across the Spiderverse video out. All they're doing is combining existing footage with existing music, but they managed to weave it all together in a way that feels so fresh and different, while still feeling very accurate to the original film. By the time that final Miles shot rolls around, I was literally holding my breath. It's so good. And that is where I'm gonna wrap this thing up. Cheers for watching, everyone. I hope you all got a kick out of this. I wanted to join in with the overall Spider-Verse conversation since I love both of these movies, but almost every single element has already been covered, in insane detail no less. So then I found myself rewatching one of the trailers again because they're really good, and suddenly I was like, huh, no one's talked about these yet, have they?
My time to shine.
Anyway, yeah, thanks for watching. I have a Patreon, a Twitter, and a Ko-Fi if you feel like helping out. And as you've probably guessed, I am beyond excited for... Oh, that's quite funny wording, isn't it? That is, whenever we end up getting that film. Yeah, see you in 2045 when I'm back discussing the teaser trailer for Beyond, everybody.